KTN News. Get the whole story.
Okay, we're going live. Very well, a very warm welcome to you wherever it is you are watching KTN Home and KTN News from. This is the Own a Home Expo, coming to you live from KICC, Nairobi. My name is Brian George Otieno. We want to discuss about the whole construction industry, but particularly narrowing down on standards and, of course, looking at how standards are going to affect the construction industry, the built environment, and why you need to care about the standards. But of course, I'm not alone. I have with me Engineer Lucorito from... Okay, go ahead, introduce yourself, sir.
Thank you very much, Brian. My name is Zakaria Lucorito.
Yes.
I'm from Kenya Bureau of Standards.
Very well.
I'm glad to join you this morning in this conversation.
Amazing. He's being modest, by the way. I'm going to tell you what he's done in a short while. Of course, next in line is also another very good gentleman, an engineer by profession. Go ahead, sir. Introduce yourself.
Good morning, viewers. My name is Engineer Shama Kiteme. I'm a registered consulting engineer, and I've been practicing as a civil structural engineer for the last 13 years.
Amazing. Up next is Winnie. Winnie, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Winnie Mbao. I work for East African Cables, and I'm the quality assurance there, and also a trained engineer.
Very well then. Last but not least, we have with us a commercial manager at the East African Cables, Dr. Gatitu. Go ahead.
Thank you, Brian. Viewers, good morning. Yes, my name, as you've heard, is Dr. Gerald Gatitu. I'm the commercial manager for East African Cables PLC.
Very well. So this will be my company today as we discuss the whole issue about standards and why you as a citizen should care about standards even when considering constructing your home, your rental apartments, or your commercial buildings, hospitality buildings, and the same. I just want to give you a bit of portfolio about what these panelists have done in their lifetime and why they qualify so much for this conversation. You'd be asking. To my first right here, Engineer Zakaria Lucorito. I told you he's being modest, but he's a man who has quite a lot of accolades under his belt. So he is currently the chief manager of standards, in charge of standards at the Standards Development and Trade at the Kenya Bureau of Standards, an engineer by profession with over 20 years experience and 17 particularly at KEBS. Of course, that is why he will be here with us talking to us about standards. Shama Kiteme, engineer, is a member of MIEK. He has an honorary secretary-elect of the Institute of Engineers of Kenya. And of course, he holds a Master's of Art in Project Planning and Management from the University of Nairobi, Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering, University of Nairobi, and Masters of Science in Civil Engineering ongoing at Dedan Kimathi University. He is a registered civil and structural engineer, just as he had mentioned earlier on. Done a lot, as a corporate member of the Institution of Engineers of Kenya, and of course a corporate member of the Architectural Association of Engineers. Winnie Mbao is up next. Is equally quality assurance manager at the East African Cables Limited, ISO 9001 certified lead auditor, BSc Electrical and Electronics Engineering. At that point, I think I should take a breather. And of course, we have the commercial manager right there with commercial manager at East African Cables, Dr. Gerald Gatitu. Who among you is senior so that mtu asichome?
Well, we have different roles working as a team.
Great. And I'm going to start with the lady. I was born a gentleman, so I'm going to start with you, Winnie. Kinothia down the street or somewhere in Nyeri wants to construct his house, all right? I ask questions best with illustrations. He wants to construct the house, but he's looking at perhaps East African Cables and he sees them as perhaps expensive. Goes down the street to Paul. Paul tells him, I have niko na hii, tunaeza ongea. You know the narrative and how Kenyans want to cost cut. Yeah. But these other ones are not up to standard. The question then becomes, Winnie, what's the importance of standards? Why should me, Kinothia, another Atieno, Fatuma care about standards, even in things like as small, quote unquote, as cables, taps, plumbing systems? Go ahead.
Well, thank you for that question, because I have had that narrative before, and it's quite common among the construction market, and especially because when you're constructing, cables come on at the last bit. So Kinothia should understand, number one, if you're tempted to go for cheap, you're buying less. So copper is the most important aspect of the cable. So when selecting a cable, I have brought with me a cable.
Okay.
KEBS have done excellent work in standardizing products in the market. So each product that you buy should have a standardization mark, and you can send it free of charge for verification. This means that the cable that I've produced today is the same that I'll produce tomorrow, that I produced since 1966. So that consistency is the key. That's why we recommend that you buy from a reputable manufacturer. Next, when you're looking out as Kinuthia, it's actually pretty hard to tell whether a cable is quality or not. But some indications can give you. For example, if you look at the cable, it should have a print. And KEBS have ensured that every cable should have a print indicating the manufacturer, the year of manufacture, so that there's traceability for future, and also indicating the specification. So the unscrupulous manufacturers in the market, what they do is they skimp on the conductor. Now the conductor, which is the copper inside the cable, is the most important metal. They'll put up a lot of the PVC. Now if you have a smaller conductor, what happens is your cables heat up. Next thing you know, your equipment is burning. You have a very expensive camera, right? You have to have an integrity cable, because that equipment is very expensive. Next thing is you find you'll get a fire if you're connecting with the wrong cable. So don't cheapen out in the last stage. You have spent tens of millions on your construction. Don't cheapen out in the last stage.
Great. Engineer Lukorito, Kinuthia was listening, and he's gotten the message right now that they shouldn't cheapen their construction, particularly on such accessories. The question then becomes, how does he certify? How does he know? Because we've had some unscrupulous traders, just as Winnie has pointed out, they have this cheap equipment, the cheap accessories like the cables, the plumbing stuff and everything, and then they bring and put it in the market, and you may not be able actually to verify. So now the question is, how does Kinuthia ensure that what he's actually buying is the legit one? Because we've had instances of people taking the KEBS, that brand, and putting it on substandard equipment.
Thank you very much, Brian. First, let me state that KEBS is very clear on how consumers can verify these products in the market. One of the issues that has already been mentioned by the earlier speaker is that we need to verify the products. How do we do it? And then we have the standardization mark, which is a mandatory mark for all products being sold in the market. Then how to verify this one? We have created a shortcut where there's that SMS number on each product, SM, standardization mark number on each product. And this number can be sent to 20023 by SMS, just to verify the validity of that mark. And then we've also created an app. It's called KEBS app. You can also enter the mark, the number directly in that app, and then you verify the product if it's certified. And if it's not certified, we have reporting channels as well. You can report to KEBS, then you can take an immediate step to rectify or withdraw that product in the market if it's not meeting the requirements. But basically what we are saying is that it's a process that involves awareness creation to the market, to the consumers, to be aware, to verify the marks. As has been mentioned, cheap is always expensive. And if it doesn't have that SM mark, standardization mark, then you are obviously being exposed to the dangers that has been mentioned by East African cables.
Okay, Shama, I want to come to you on this one particularly. How many cases perhaps do you handle in a day or in a month of people who are coming to complain that they've been sold to substandard stuff and it has somehow had an effect on their daily process? Just like Winnie has pointed out, they connect it on the fridge and boom, the fridge goes off and the electrical appliances in the house go off. So how many cases perhaps do you report on a daily, are reported on a daily basis to KEBS of this counterfeit stuff?
Basically, yes. We have cases being reported on substandard products that are in the market. And oftentimes we have to go out and, investigate and find out the basis of the products and all that. Now, that tells you that our work should be cut out in terms of engaging the public and clarifying what are the things to look out for quality in products, especially in construction products. And they cut across all the way. I mean, concrete, cement, steel, and there are standards that are set out so that those construction products meet. Now, it may not be very easy for someone who is not educated, or who is not an engineer, for instance, to understand what to look for in steel, construction steel, in cement, for instance. And then it becomes important then to engage professionals who are engineers, civil structural engineers for structural design, electrical engineers for electrical systems, mechanical engineers for mechanical systems in the construction industry, so that then you can put to task the right professional and ask them to give you the right standards for the products. And often these professionals are trained, they are certified, and they understand the standards they should use to design, because really our designs are governed by standards.
Okay. Let's talk from a manufacturer, a producer level, Dr. Gatitu. I'm sure you've had cases of your products being counterfeited in the market, and of course that also affects your reputation in the industry. So I want to talk to you as a person who speaks or operates directly with the consumer, as you are a commercial manager at East African Cables. How is this affecting your reputation, and how are you countering this sort of bad notion that is created about East African Cables in the market, so to speak?
Well, thank you, Brian. And yes, as you've said, the challenges out there, and especially in East African region, is the issue of counterfeit menace. But well, for us at East African Cables, we look at it from the other angle, and the way we see it is people copy what is the best.
Okay.
People tend to associate themselves the best. So in our case, for example, we are the leaders in the industry, and with partnership with CABS, we've actually been able to work together and standardize, or rather come up with standards for cables to help the consumers, that is Kenyans and the East Africans at large, so that they get quality products. And as he says, it cuts across not only cables, it's metals and other construction materials. So yes, the challenge has been there, but for us, we usually go even a notch higher. And just like CABS, we ensure that the public out there is able to authenticate standard cables. At East African Cables, we have a scratch and verify, a label that is on our product across the house wire product. And a customer can be able to authenticate by himself. Then the other thing also we do is we educate the dealers and the users. We also do partnership with media houses like the Standards, the Nation, and we communicate how to ensure we have standard products for different projects. So all these activities we do for the betterment of our country and our people. So, well, but I can say we need more support, and especially from the government, to control standards. I know CABS is government, but the support even for that CABS is really needed. The goodwill from the leadership of the country it would be welcome to really save our country and give our people quality.
Great. I'm going to be talking about that in a short while, particularly the multi-agency or interagency cooperation between the Anti-Counterfeit Authority and CABS later on. But now is when I indulge the viewer at home on this conversation. You're watching on our Home Expo, coming to you live from Nairobi, KICC. Would like you to talk to us about your experience with counterfeit goods. At Brian George KE on Twitter, at KTN News, and of course we're coming to you live also at KTN Home. Do use the hashtag #OwnAHomeExpo, #OwnAHomeExpo. Talk to us about your experience with counterfeit products, and we'll be able to sample some of them here. I want to stay with the manufacturers, particularly still on this one. Now you have produced your products. What is the importance of having it tested? Dr. Gatitu, once again.
Well, just like I had said earlier, it's to ensure compliance and also give the users, the end users, confidence of that quality. So, and again, for us, we ensure it's tested because, again, in addition to that, we also give assurance like lifetime warranty to our customer. We want that product, once it's used, it serves the purpose that it's designed for.
Okay, great. Winnie, I want to ask you, what do you think is the weakest link between the public understanding quality standards and, of course, them appreciating that they need to be having quality standards, quality goods, quality, even in terms of services, really? What do you think? Is it knowledge? Is it the affordability of the product? What is the weakest link, really?
I think the weakest link for the consumer is, and I like this phrase, most of my customers use it, I am not technical.
Okay.
So, yes, many of us are not technical, and we do appreciate that fact, but we are in an age of information. In an age of information, learn as to where your product is coming from. What standards are they using to ensure that their quality management system is effective? Again, use a registered engineer for your project. Use a qualified person to give you the advice. If you're not technical, use a technical person. I've found most of the people who will use East African cables are often those who have a name attached to them for that project. Because once an engineer certifies that your cabling is correct, he's putting his name to guarantee that the lifetime of that cable will serve until
kingdom come.
Until kingdom come, let's say. So I think the weakest link is we don't want to really understand or employ a certified engineer, and also we don't want to get information for ourselves. So come to the Homes Expo. Like today, it's starting to get sunny. So let's come to the Homes Expo, understand where your product is coming from. And again, traceability of your product is very important for any product that you're buying, and especially cables, because these are the things that will power a home when you and your child are watching TV at home. You want to feel a sense of peace.
Safety,
peace of mind. Peace of mind. Whenever you feel that shower head, when you're switching on that shower in the morning and you feel that zzz,
I love the point you're bringing about family, because at some point you're going to leave your child at home alone, and for some reason you know very well in your heart you did not use standard cables. I mean, you are thinking as a woman, as a mother at this point. Talk to us about that.
Yes, it is quite important, and especially, yes, you're building for your children.
Sure.
And as an engineer or as a fundi, and we want to encourage our fundis to come and buy East African cables. And we have an exciting program for them, and they'll get points. So they come over to the stand. But we want to encourage, because you as a fundi, you're building for your children. Next time you're at the KICC, like today, and you did not use the right cable, you also at risk. So it doesn't matter whether you're building for your children or you're selling to your children. At the end of the day, this product will be in the public market, and you might be in a place where now you have fire because of the work that you did.
Wow. Anti-counterfeit people, please beware about that. You could be putting so many people at risk. Engineer Shama, Winnie and Dr. Gatitu there have finished their product lines. They want to now put them out in the market, but there's an important part of it, the testing part. And somehow they could be tempted to skip that because of the cost of testing. That's what I want us to talk about. How much does it cost to test the products as it is, different diameters, and talk to us about the various categories. We're talking about things like strength, serviceability, durability, and really the cost of each of those elements in terms of testing. Do you test per ton or meter? You know better. You are the engineer here.
No. What happens is, construction products, you take a sample, a representative sample, and then you take to testing labs. There are accreditation programs for labs. KENAS accredits testing labs, but KEBS has labs also. And the ministry has labs, and other private lab. But what you do as an engineer, I will request for the right sample to be taken to the testing lab to ascertain the quality, and so that the testing sample is representative of the material that you're going to use in the construction. Costs are not prohibitive comparative to, the costs you're going to incur in constructing a building, for instance, using substandard materials. Look, you're going to spend millions in your property. You just got to spend a few thousand shillings, less than 100,000, reasonable cost to take a sample, to take to the lab and get it tested and ascertain that you're going to use the right quality of materials. Now, we design for safety, serviceability, reliability, economy. If you have engaged a professional, it becomes their responsibility to make sure that design is consistent with execution, which is construction, and testing and the materials. Now, when you don't have a professional engineer, for example, a structural engineer, an electrical engineer, a mechanical engineer, you have no guarantee of the materials that you're using. And if something goes wrong, because if you use a professional and registered professional engineer, you have a back, you can follow after their registration and ask the registering bodies, Engineers Board of Kenya Registered Engineers, and other bodies are registered architects and quantity surveyors. You're able to follow and trace and get accountability for the professional that you have engaged. And therefore, that way you can ascertain that you have instituted quality control processes all the way from design, execution, and even testing and commissioning of your products.
Okay. Good stuff. I want us to talk to Lucorito here. When he was mentioning all these manufacturing categories and of course those categories of testing, I in my mind he's talking about the big boys in the industry. We're talking about people who are manufacturing big time. But we have startups in the country, people who are coming up with very, very good products, but their market capitalization, their total addressable market is a bit low. So how do you make sure that it's affordable for them to also achieve those standards and at the same time produce quality for this market? Because again, we are championing buy Kenya, build Kenya. We can't be importing all the time. Go ahead for startups.
Thank you, Brian. For startups, I think let me start from where we start the whole process of standardization first. In standardization, we usually have 3 steps: initiation, development and implementation of standards. Therefore, the right step to start with startups is for them to get involved in the standardization process, the entire chain. Therefore, involve them first at the start, where they are involved in developing those standards, coming up with the requirements. And specifically for startups, some products will be unique. And therefore, involve them in developing those standards. And then the next step, after you've developed those standards have been approved as Kenya standards, will be the implementation part. And testing and the certification of those products comes at the end of it as a part of implementation. Therefore, for us, we've supported the SMEs. We've lowered the charges for certification of their products, and we are charging 5,800 for small and for smaller enterprises, for startups. When you compare this one with the large manufacturers who require higher figures of 23,000 annual inspection, for small startups, we do not charge even the inspection fee. Once they pay 5,000, we take their products. We run all those tests that Engineer Kitemi has mentioned about. There are quite a number of tests, and it's expensive to run those tests. But we've greatly subsidized so that once they pay that amount, then we have to pick their products, have them tested, take the results back to them. If there are areas of improvement, we work with them to improve those areas. Then they bring back their products for testing again. Then they have to go through that entire process at a minimum at that price of 5,800. Therefore, we've greatly subsidized to support them to have their products certified. And they cut across all products, be they concrete, be they the electrical the mechanical products, plumbing, pipes, all those ones have been captured under that amount of 5,800. As you go up the route, and then we want you also to support your own processes and to be independent, we increase the charges as you grow. But for the startups, we are really supporting them, having them tested. And for clarity or for clarification, all our labs are accredited by SANAS, the South African accreditation body, and we provide the confidence that actually the results coming out of our labs are reliable and are comparable to any international systems.
Amazing. We were going to come to that, particularly in the accessing the export market, and of course, if the standards are acceptable globally. I'm going to be asking you, Dr. Engineer Sharma and Engineer Lucorito, on that. We are speaking to officials from the Kenya Bureau of Standards. Of course, you know them as KEBS, and of course, East African Cables. They are right here. Dr. Gatitu is to my extreme right, and then the beautiful lady is Winnie Mbao, and Engineer Shama is also here with us, and of course, Engineer Lokorito. I think I have something with doctor. I seem to be having a challenge with maybe all of you should be doctors. That's the same question I was going to ask you later on, but now that you brought it up, let me just pick it up with you from here. We're asking SMEs, of course, once they've supplied the local market, they also need to reach out to the export market. Now, we understand that, of course, KEBS ratifies the international standards that are provided by ISO. But now the question then becomes, are the standards recognized globally, so that if Fatuma is manufacturing locally, she is able to have her products in the international market?
Thank you very much. You've rightly mentioned we are part of the global network on standardization, and we are deeply involved in standardization at IEC and also at ISO, the National Organization for Standardization. And we've adopted quite a number of standards for these products that are traded globally. And one of the areas where we support SMEs is that we've entered into mutual agreements with quite a number of organizations. In the East African region, for example, we are members of EAC, and our standardization marks are recognized by our partner states. Therefore, once your product is certified by KEBS and you have that SM mark, it's easy for your products to cross the borders easily, and the manufacturers can attest to this, that actually for those products that are certified, they do not need to be retested if they are exporting, for example, in the East African region. Our partner states recognize KEBS as a certifier. Therefore, once your product has that mark, certified products, then it's easy for your products to access market. And that's where we come in as KEBS to really encourage the manufacturers of products, especially in the construction industry, to have their products certified and meet the international and regional standards as well, for them to find a wider market access.
Amazing. Engineer Shama, any success stories on the same? Like people you have given this standardization mark and have accessed, and they've been able to access the wider market, not just in Kenya?
Absolutely. The moment you get your standards certified by KEBS, you get acceptability in the market, and we are not a silo. For instance, Kenya gazetted Eurocodes on 14 September 2012 through Gazette Notice 13048. And so Kenya adopted Eurocodes as a structural design standards. Now, that opens a whole door of opportunity for professionals and manufacturers in Kenya if they comply to Eurocodes, which are standards recognized the whole of Europe and so many other parts of the world. So standardization actually is a gateway, opening opportunity for businesses for their products to be accepted. Now, I've been privileged to practice in a number of countries in Africa. And if you design to the standards and products that are availed meet the standards, for example, Eurocodes, IEC standards, and other globally recognized standards, then the products are applicable, whether you're talking of Rwanda, you're talking of Tanzania, Ethiopia, all over. Your products are recognized and they're acceptable. And then it opens door even for mobility for professionals in our practice. So yes, it is in the interest of every manufacturer to get your products certified so that they have that SM standard and they can be recognized, across the borders. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, you want to chime in on that? Okay.
To chime in on what Engineer Kiteme has mentioned about the Eurocodes. Actually, with the transition that for a long time we relied on British codes in the construction, we have transitioned. If the British themselves have transitioned to Eurocodes, why are we retaining in the BSI? The British codes. Therefore, we have transitions, and those Eurocodes have been adopted, and we are creating a lot of awareness as KEBS in the industry. We've planned quite a series of trainings. We are working with the Engineers Board of Kenya and IEK, with other professions in the industry, to just create awareness around these Eurocodes on design, steel. We are looking at geotechniques. We are also looking at the codes themselves. Therefore, there are specific details that we are creating awareness around these Eurocodes so that they form the basis in the construction construction industry. And as Engineer Kiteme has mentioned, once you use the Euro codes, you are globally acceptable.
Sure.
If your products, your professionals are using the same standards in construction, then they're acceptable and they can find even business across the borders without limitations.
Your market is limitless.
Excellent.
Amazing. This is ile Waswahili wanaitwa swali la kizushi, and I'd like all of us to contribute to this one. So Brian here goes down street and purchases cables from this very good panelist of ours, Winnie and Dr. Gatitu, and then for some reason it blows off. All right, who assumes liability? Dr. Gatitu.
You've brought me back to the earlier statement, and now I'll phrase it the other way around. Cheap is expensive.
True.
However, and this is not to say that we are not standardizing, but as it's known all over the world, in a society where people coexist, there are some people who want shortcut.
True.
So KEBS sets standards, or different countries set standards for their manufacturing processes. But there come some people who want to get some shortcut. And as I was giving an example of cables, we as East African Cable, we in partnership with KEBS to make sure we champion the standard story. And the benefit is we'll be able to give our people what is right. For us in East African Cable, we champion that guarantee, what we're saying, we offer lifetime warranty. And that says, if whatever you're saying, if it's like we are owning up. For us to own up to that extent, it's because we know we have what is right. And we know now whoever is doing the shortcut would not want to own up. So, as you said, umesema ni swali ya
swali la kizushi.
So
you want to chime in on that?
I want to come in and ask mention about what Dr. Tower has mentioned about controlling before it happens.
Yes.
And that's
due diligence.
That's what we call quality assurance. Sure. We're always encouraging manufacturers, before even that happens at the end of the day, we want them to be assured that actually they have assured their products. There's confidence that actually their products fulfill the requirements of the standards. And that's what we call quality assurance. And we support the industry as KEBS to ensure that what they are producing actually fulfills the requirements of the standards. That notwithstanding, if substandard products find their market, their way in the market, then we have intensified our market surveillance team, which is looking at these products, because we want to control that before it happens. I think that's the best way to go. We don't want an accident to happen, then you say, where are you? We are in the market, and we are constantly profiling products, especially for high-risk products. Like you mentioned about the cables, you've mentioned about the steel in construction. Those are some of the products that we have profiled as high-risk profiles, and we are focusing on these products to eliminate them in the market. Therefore, constantly we are in the market carrying out market surveillance, and when we find these substandard products, we withdraw them from the market and we have them destroyed at the expense of the manufacturer, just to discourage similar traders who want to find the substandard products in the market.
In full glare of the media, na iwe funzo kwa wengine wenye. Engineer Shama, okay. I'll let Gatitu go first.
Yeah,
and then
I come
to
to
Shama.
To that standard angle also, that as KEBS also put pressure to local manufacturing. I would just like to add that the cable industry also has other challenges. That the standard now is not about the making of the cable. It's again about giving the end user quantity. So there's all the quality issues, but there's also the quantity, and I would like us to speak about it also, KEBS to address. And in our industry, for example, they want to the manufacturers want to deceive the end user. So we have, for example, this a 90-meter roll, and they know, nobody will go and measure whether it's 90. So they pack 80 or 85 and end up. So we have also those challenges as an issue of quantity, not now away from quality, and maybe you can also speak about.
I can mention standards quite cover a large aspect of parameters or requirements, and the quality. There's specification in the standard which even specify the length of the cables that we have to, and even the thickness of those cables. Therefore, all those issues that Dr. Tao is mentioning are precisely captured in the standard. And when they are doing the market surveillance, we check against those parameters. We do random sampling, and once we take those products in the labs and we verify that actually they are not even meeting the quantity requirements, we still enforce them as per the Standards Act. we have to withdraw those products from the market, and punishment has to be vetted against those who are supplying these products in the whole chain, starting from the manufacturer, the traders as well.
Let me pick it up from the punishment. Okay, I see Engineer Sharma is ready to come in on this one. So Engineer Sharma, while you answer that, what would be the worst that would happen to Winnie and Dr. Gatitu if they do not meet the standards? What would be the worst? Would they be closed down? Would they be kicked out of NSE? What would happen? I don't know.
Yeah, of course, they are. We have the Standards Act that stipulates the regulations about manufacturing and making sure that you work within the standards. And every act and their regulations, the instruments that govern, they have penalties. And I know KEBS is competent enough to execute that and enforce compliance. But the question of I have a product that has failed is very important, because you want to walk the entire journey of construction deliberate and geared towards achieving a quality. Now, quality assurance begins at the moment you have the concept. You want to design, you want to execute the design, you want to test your materials, and you want to make sure the final product meets a standard.
True.
Now, if really you drop the ball in any of those chains, you have yourself to blame. And so that's why we have to say, if you have the right people leading you, and she said, I'm not the expert in that area. Now, the same way I don't want to get to a doctor who is not certified and qualified, so that I get wrong medication. In a similar manner, I don't want to be involved in construction without the right professionals. Now, if you have the right professionals, they give you the proper designs, they give also specifications. They tell you, this is the material you have to use for HVAC, material you have to use for P&D, the material you have to use for concrete, for structural, aspects of your building. Now, if there is a problem, you can ask them. And two, they follow through to make sure that you have warranties. And warranties guarantee performance.
True.
Now, if you do not do the right thing and have the professionals to guide you in your construction process, you have yourself to blame. Things go wrong, you have no fallback position. You understand? So really, we must put it out there that if you want to be constructing your building, get the right professionals guiding you through the process. Yeah.
Amazing. Winnie, I want to have you have the last word on this one, or you want to come in later on? Good. Have the last word on this one, because you've not commented on this. In the event of in the unlikely event, I want to use that word unlikely because I believe you do your due diligence to give quality products out there. What happens? Liability. And what would happen to you, the manufacturer?
It'll start with me, as Winnie also. But just to assure my customer, my quality assurance starts right from the raw material.
Okay.
Right from how I procure my raw material, I have to procure using test certificates. I have to get my products with test certificates before they land onto my factory. I have a lot of in-process tests, all of which are done using KEBS calibrated equipment, so that I am sure what I'm producing is of quality. Then there's a final end product. I've told you my cable is rated 1000 volts. I will test it 3.5 times above that, so that I'm sure, dead sure, by the time it's leaving that door,
the market.
I can bet my life on it.
And I love the fact that you are that confident, because you had mentioned earlier on that these products can serve up to eternity, so there is not that aspect of planned obsolescence in it.
Yes, but I do have something we call a product recall strategy.
Okay.
So within my process, I'm able to trace when this was made, which machine made it, and which operator did it.
That's important to mention. Please go again. Product recall strategy. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, and it banks on traceability. It banks on how far back can I say
you're able to work backwards and find out.
And this is what KEBS does when they do an audit.
Okay.
They don't just come and tell you it is a rigorous audit where you check. Can I trace 2 years back how the copper that you got in, which products did it get out? So it is an exercise that also challenges them manufacturers, not only to maintain standards, continuously improve, because there's technology evolving every
He mentioned time. Consistency on this one.
Yes, consistency.
Amazing. Yes. You're itching. Go ahead.
Very interesting indeed that we are talking about quality assurance.
Sorry.
And one of the things that Mbao has mentioned is about a recall procedure. And I did mention earlier on that quality assurance is actually the confidence that your product will meet the requirements. And having gone through that process, KEBS, during the quality assurance process, we've established what we call scheme of supervision. Under this scheme of supervision, the manufacturers have to commit that they will consistently meet the requirements of the standard, and they also include areas of recall as well. Therefore, in our audits, we usually run with the manufacturer through the scheme of supervision. It's not only certifying the product, but they have to assure us that actually they are committing themselves to this process, that we are certifying their product, but it's their responsibility to ensure that actually they consistently meet the requirements of the standard and ensure that what is in the market actually meets those requirements that have committed to. And that scheme of supervision is very clear on the recall process. They have to institute that one and ensure that it is being implemented as well. And as I did mention, at the end of it, we do market surveillance, of course, just to verify that actually what they committed to, they are meeting those requirements. And in the case we find that actually the manufacturer is not abiding to the scheme of supervision, we do actually withdraw even the suspend the standardization marks. And we've done this severally until the manufacturer actually institutes corrective action and ensures that the products are complying before we reinstate the standardization mark.
Amazing. I hope the sermon is reaching home properly. We are quarter way through, and hopefully by the time we are done with the sermon, we won't need to have an altar call, because you would have been convinced about the importance of standards in your construction. And that's what we are asking you today, even on Twitter. Talk to us at Brian George KE, at KTN News KE, and at KTN Home. What's your experience with construction material standards? What's your experience with construction materials standards? I'll be sampling some of your comments right here as we go on with the broadcast. I have a very beautiful, interesting panel with me here today. Dr. Gatito, right from my extreme right. He is a commercial manager at East African Cables, and of course Winnie Mbao, equally an engineer at the East African Cables. Engineer Shama Kiteme, who is also a member of the KEBS, Kenya Bureau of Standards, and of course Lukorito, the engineer here. This guy has 20 years experience in this game, and 17 particularly in KEBS. I want us to talk about the regulatory environment, the government cooperation. There are reports that normally you people normally sample from the Anti-Counterfeit Authority. Talk to us about the magnitude, the effect it's having on the manufacturer, particularly in terms of quantifying it, in terms of shillings, in terms of money, monetary losses. How deep is the effect of counterfeiting of some of these things in the market?
There are two issues here, and that's what I would like to talk about. There are two issues: counterfeit and substandard. Counterfeit actually is copying a product. You could be meeting the requirements of the standard, but you are counterfeiting, which means you are copying. It's a copy of the original product.
And they say people copy the best, eh?
Yeah, they copy the best. Then the next area we look at is substandard. Substandard is where a product is not meeting the requirements of the standard. What we said in standards are minimum requirements. But if your product falls short of those minimum requirements, then that product is substandard. As you've mentioned, the issue of counterfeit is global. It's a global effect, and it's being fought globally, and it runs into billions of money because people are copying other people's products. But when it comes to substandard, again, people are undercutting others in terms of standards, and that's where we strongly come in to ensure that actually products in the market should be meeting requirements. I may not be having the exact figures, but it runs into billions when it comes to counterfeit products. And perhaps from the manufacturing sector, they will be having these figures from Kenya Association of Manufacturers on the impact of the counterfeit or illicit trade globally. And to that end, we've even developed an international standard actually to fight and combat illicit trade.
Do you feel you're supported enough by them? Msiseme kwa nguvu kama wanasikia. Do you feel you're supported enough as manufacturers by the government?
Yeah, well, actually, I would say we got support, but I had said earlier, we keep sharing insights on how best we can move forward as partners. That is the government, regulatory body, and the manufacturers. But what I would maybe also add is that also as manufacturer at East African Cable, we try also to go a notch higher to help also the public understand. Like we have scratch and verify. It's also a way of authenticating that a consumer out there at home whoever is building can be able also to authenticate for himself or herself that he has the right product. So on all our products, we have scratch and verify.
Winnie, have your word on this?
I think counterfeit is, as they say, big business.
Yeah.
Because you find a product may be shipped to several countries so that it returns back to the market. So my responsibility here is, number one, ensure I am available and my information is available in the market. There is commendable efforts by KEBS, the Anti-Counterfeit Agency, KETRA, Trade Remedies Agency, because you can't fight this battle alone. True. And manufacturers are sometimes afraid to admit of counterfeit because it affects your brand.
True.
It does affect your brand, and it runs in millions. And you can find, maybe the law says, if I find you with a counterfeit of 1 cable, I'll charge you a percentage of that cost. But if you measure it in terms of the revenue lost, it would be in billions.
In billions.
So we are commending the efforts, and we thank the government for the agencies that they've set up, but we are encouraging more to be done in this. Yeah.
Amazing. Have your word on this also, and talk about the government cooperation, Anti-Counterfeit Authority and KEBS, how you cooperate to ensure that there is a level playing field.
Absolutely. I think I'll put it this way. The regulatory framework has enough supporting legislation and instruments to apply to implement proper regulation. And probably at this point, the best is to encourage the government agencies so that really the effort of enforcement becomes more effective. And I'll tell you, very many, consumers, they ask us every now and then, do I have the right cement that meets standard, the right steel, the right cables? The one I use, the equipment and installations I want to use for heating, ventilation and air conditioning and stuff like that. And the only person who can guarantee them is KEBS and other regulatory agencies like NCA in construction industry, for instance. And so, probably to just encourage the agencies to be more thorough in comping up the marketplace and making sure that if they have counterfeit products, people pay for that, they're removed out of the market, and we have the enforcement taking place so that then we have a guarantee that what is in the market is the right quality. And there has been efforts, we cannot negate that. But obviously, we need to see more. We need to see more effort, because even with the efforts that have been ongoing, we still have counterfeit products, and we still have people falling for that. And of course, to encourage KEBS and all other regulatory agencies, just to make sure that enforcement becomes more effective. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Okay.
Maybe I can support what Engineer Kitemi has mentioned.
Yes,
there is what we call multi-agency teams that work together. We work with the ASCAPs, we work with the anti-counterfeit agencies. We also work with the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. It's a multi-stakeholder forum that we work together to identify the products that are not meeting the required standards, or they are counterfeited, and then we take the necessary action as per the requirements of the different statutes in this country.
Which are some of these products that are largely disputed as counterfeit?
Of course, from the East African cables is a huge area, a potential area for counterfeit, and I would just mention that as one of them, but there are quite a number of them. You can even look at the mechanical products like construction pipes. You look at the plumbing pipes, plastic pipes. There are quite a number of those that could be counterfeited across the globe. I'm not just mentioning about the nationally, but globally. You could find that actually counterfeited, and quite a number of products. Potentially all products are prone to counterfeiting. And similarly, when we look at the counterfeit market, I mentioned about the illicit trade. It's a global concern that necessitated the establishment of an international standard on how this illicit trade can be combated globally. Okay. And as KEBS, we are not left behind. As Kenya, we are not left behind. We are in the game, and as has been mentioned by Engineer Kitemi, what we need to do is just to intensify our efforts, and then the industry will reap the benefits out of this.
Amazing. We're winding up the discussion right now, and we're joined with one of our initial panelists who was supposed to be here with us. Mark Olo, the senior advisor at AAD Properties, is here with us. Mark, please introduce yourself. Let the viewer hear your voice. Go ahead. Yes. Okay. I think your microphone is off. You're going to have to put it on. Okay.
Sorry. I'm Mark Okello. Okay. I'm a property advisor with AAD Real Estate. AAD Real Estate is a real estate development company with sisters companies like ASC, which is in construction, doing major projects like roads, construction, general construction. We also have AAM, which is a manufacturing company, majorly on furniture. I was meant to be here earlier. Sorry, I came late.
No, it's totally fine.
Yes.
I'm going to give you a grace period as I asked my other panelists the last question now. Yeah. The future of construction standardization.
Thank you very much for that question. The future of standardization in the construction industry is really bright, and as part of the government efforts in the Big Four agenda, and specifically on affordable housing, we've in the recent past developed quite a number of new and innovative standards for affordable construction materials. I will just mention a few of them quickly. One of them is the EPS, which we've developed standard for to ensure that actually we bring down the cost of construction.
So the view, what's EPS for?
EPS expanded polystyrene.
Okay.
Yeah, therefore it's a quick way of constructing, and it lowers.
I think I'm okay with the EPS. Yes.
Okay. Then the next, some of the other products that we've also developed, you could realize they are waffles, which have really brought down the cost of construction. We're also looking at the stabilized soil blocks, which bring down the cost of construction as well. And as we develop these standards, we're also looking at how can they meet the requirements of the Euro codes again. Therefore, again, we develop those new innovative products, but in mind, we also want to meet the globally acceptable standards. But we are really encouraging the use of affordable construction material, and specifically we are equal to the task in developing standards in this area. And therefore, moving forward, we shall be seeing more and more of the standards being developed on affordable construction material, specifically to support this industry.
Engineer Kiteme, just on what Lucorito has said, there's a startup I covered last year that makes paving blocks, or cabro as they are known in the construction industry, cabro and paving blocks from plastic. They take the bottles down the street, melt them, they are cooled, they are shaped, and then they make paving blocks. They work as good as the concrete. The concrete material. So how is KEBS also accommodating such kind of I would want to call them disruptive and new construction materials? And of course this is equally the future, and there could be more construction materials that are coming up in the industry. So in terms of the future, how is KEBS accommodating them and supporting? Go ahead.
Thank you for bringing that up. I was privileged to engage the CEO in a session, in a forum. Okay. And in fact, she did confirm that KEBS walked them in the journey.
That is in Zambi Mate.
And definitely, your question is very pertinent because, in my view, future buildings will not be constructed, they will be manufactured. We are entering a period of quick turnaround of investment for investors. And they're looking at design for manufacturing and assembly. And the concepts of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and digital twinning revolutionizing the construction industry. And this is going to inform why should a client decide to use steel instead of concrete. What are the turnaround times in terms of starting to recover or recoup my investment in a development? And so standardization will become very important. We are looking at modular housing units, quick turnaround, and producing modular housing, and producing mass production of houses, for instance. And standardization is going to become very important. And I know KEBS is placing itself strategically for that development, because we're going to reach a phase whereby it's a matter of how can we mass produce housing. You're talking of affordable housing. We're talking about housing deficit in this country. How can we produce mass houses in a cheap way, but making sure that they are safe.
Yeah,
and so standardization becomes very important. And engineers are going to play a critical role in this process. We are capacity building our members as engineers so that we are able to play a critical role, just like we've been playing, in making sure that we meet this kind of, goals that the government sets: affordable housing, healthcare for all and stuff like that. And so standardization has to not to play the catch game, but to be ahead in making sure that there are standards for this kind of mass production, designed for manufacturing and assembly and stuff like that. So the future is certainly exciting. Yeah.
As a property developer, Mark, I also met another startup that produces ceiling boards from, guess what, mushroom, mycelium and coffee husks. Would you, as a developer, use such kind of material? And what would inform the use of such material?
We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm asking, use the microphone. I'm asking, as a real estate developer, there are these sort of disruptive construction materials, all right? I've just mentioned, I've given an example of that lady who is constructing cabro from plastic, melting plastic, shaping them, and then cooling to make cabro. They work as good as the concrete cabro. There's another one who I also met who produces, who makes ceiling boards from mushroom, mycelium, coffee husks, and other farm products. Would you, as a real estate developer, use such kind of material? And what would inform the use of such material? Saka, your mic is on.
Okay. Currently, real estate is very.
Bring it closer.
Currently, real estate is very competitive.
Okay.
And the technology is taking over.
Sure.
And as a real estate developer, we respond. It's a consumer-controlled market. Yeah. The moment something is introduced in the market, like the ones you are saying, if it's acceptable by the consumer, the end buyer, developers are very flexible. They adapt very fast because it's very competitive. And developers normally have their original idea. I want to build this, using this material. But then that idea is overrun by the needs of the end buyers.
Okay.
Yeah, so the new technology, the new innovations coming up in the market, once they are accepted by the buyers, developers have no choice but to adapt.
Developers have no choice but to follow what the consumer wants. Winnie, you are laughing. What is it?
I'm happy that they're flexible.
Oh, okay.
And as a manufacturer, when you're faced with I like that startup idea because we have been in existence since 1966. So definitely we've seen some decades where technology has come up, and we have invested a lot in technology, but we want to encourage the startups. Let's look out for opportunities for partnerships. I do produce PVC. I recycle some of this PVC. So maybe there are opportunities here for engagement. So that is what I would want to encourage. And the future is very bright. We do a lot of using the standards that are abroad, for example, to come up with a product like the halogen-free fire retardant cables. There are a need now because you're building high rises that will occupy so many people. And what people don't know about cables is when you put a cable and there's a fire, it's a PVC cable, PVC burns and produces smoke. So there is another insulation material called HFFR, for example, that makes it the fire doesn't smoke, it doesn't have smoke, and it doesn't smolder. Another one is, for example, you're putting in your pump. You don't use the same cable that you would use in a dry area. So we have adopted a rubber technology which now helps the consumer now adopt to what the new technologies are bringing to the market. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Many thanks. We have been having the standards conversation right here at the Home Expo, and we've been talking about standards of products that are used in the construction industry. We've had a 1 hour of beautiful engagement right here with my panelists. Earlier on, we had Dr. Gatitu Gerald from East African Cables. He's the commercial manager there. Right now, Mark Okello is there with us, senior property advisor at AAD Properties. We've been having Winnie Mbau, who is equally from the East African Cables, and engineer Shama Kiteme, a member of the KEBS department, and of course, Engineer Lukorito, also here with us. We've been speaking about the standards in the construction industry. I hope the message is home. I hope you consider that you need to have quality products used for your construction of rentals, of hospitality units, of various construction buildings, and of course in the built environment. We want to make this country better in terms of ensuring that these standards are adhered to. My name is Brian George. That's why we end it right here, but the Home Expo continues. Please visit at KICC and make sure you get advice about owning a home, about how to also contribute towards the big idea of affordable housing right here in Kenya. From me to you right now, thank you so much for your invaluable company. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your viewing.